So what proof does the Bible offer? The proof gives us the Bible gives us prophecies. Can't speak. Gives us prophecies that are still being fulfilled today. All right, second thing. How does the Bible compare to other religious books? How does the Bible compare to other religious books? You say, okay, yeah, we believe the Bible's true. But what about these other religions that believe their book's true?
They're wrong.
They are.
They're not right.
But what would they say about you?
That
We're
we're
wrong.
wrong.
They're wrong.
They're wrong about saying that we're wrong. What makes the Bible true over these other religious books? And there's one other big religious book that stands out, and it's the Quran.
Quran.
Quran. How you spell it?
No, it's Q-U.
Yeah, actually spell it Q-U.
It's Q-U something, 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 something.
It's not important.
All right. That's exactly right. It doesn't matter.
Actually,
The Quran was written by Muhammad,
The Quran was written by Muhammad.
and the Bible was written by God.
Exactly.
well, actually, it's written by people.
All right,
who
listen.
work
Let me give you some. Everybody, listen. Let me give you a rundown of some of this stuff, and let's compare this. And the reason we're doing the Quran is because most other religions don't have just one book that they study. It's multiple things like writings and other stuff. But listen to this. The Bible was written over a span of about 2,000 years. Maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. That's how, now it covers a time a lot longer than that. Because from Genesis to now is a lot longer than 2,000 years. It covers a lot longer than that. But when it was written, not all of it was written exactly right then. See what I'm saying? Not as they were going, oh, I'm walking down the road. They weren't writing it as they were walking down the street and this happened to them. So it was written, because I want to get real technical with you. I don't want you to think that it was only covered 2,000 years. So you need to know that it was technically only written over a span of about 2,000 years or so. But in the Bible, how many books are in the Bible?
66.
66. We're good. 66 books in the Bible. And about 40 authors. There's some that they don't know who wrote the book for sure. So there's about 40 authors total in the book over 2,000 years. No one of those 40 people lived for 2,000 years. Alright? So it's not that one person started writing this thing and wrote the whole thing because they didn't live for 2,000 years to write it. You got what I'm saying? Think about this. 66 different books. Now, again, it's hard for us to understand sometimes. It's hard for me. I'm not telling y'all this because I think y'all are dumb. I'm telling you because it's hard for me to understand it. Maybe it's not hard for y'all, but it's just hard for me. But this book wasn't compiled. All 66 of those books weren't compiled into this one thing called the Bible during these guys' times. It wasn't like they went, oh, okay, you know what, here's the whole Bible and it's got every book in it. These were compiled later. They were all put in this order later. But they were all written at different times. So look, 66 different books by 40 different authors or so, spread out across the country, across the world at that time. We're writing these books, and all these authors had the same central idea. They had the same values, the same morals. All of them wrote about the same person and about the same kinds of things. Most of these people didn't know each other. There's some that did, but not all of them. Most of them didn't know each other. So was it like they were just walking up saying, oh, what are you writing about? They were writing these at different times, and maybe even before they even saw the other person's writing, they were writing a book about something, about Jesus, about God, about what he stood for, about Christianity, and all these books became a central idea. How in the world did all of them write about these same central ideas, write about God, write about the same kind of morals, without it being God-inspired? Without God having a hand in it, how could they have done that? I don't think they could. You know? The Bible was finished in about the 2nd century. Which would have been what? It's actually 100s. In the 2nd century, that's the 100s, right? I'm not sure I'm not wrong. 2nd century is the 100s because before the 100s is the 1st century. You know, like 90s and 80s and stuff like that. So we're actually one behind what you would think it would be. It doesn't make sense. So the Bible was finished in about the 2nd century. All these books. All right. Now the Quran. Quran. Whatever it is. All right. Here's the first thing. First of all, it was written in the late 7th century. The Quran was written in the late 7th century. 7. So like the 600s AD. The late, so close to the 700s AD. The Quran was written. The Bible was completely written at that time. All the books in this Bible were completely written at that time. They were already completed. Hannah, who wrote the Quran?
Muhammad.
Muhammad did not write the Quran. He had scribes write it because Muhammad was illiterate.
Well, whatever. You know Muhammad.
Hi-yo. That's just technicality. He didn't know how to write, so he didn't write it, but he had people write it down. But what he did, listen, I want you to know what's going on because we don't believe this. I don't believe this at all. I don't believe anything in the Quran, but you need to know what other people believe because how can you tell them what they believe is wrong if you have no idea what it is they believe? How can you tell them that if you don't know what they're believing? You can't say you're wrong because you don't know what they believe. But listen, the Quran was written, Muhammad, it was completely written off the visions that Muhammad had. He basically went and lived in this cave, isolated himself, and then he started having visions, visions from God, what he said, and anytime he would kind of like go into this trance or whatever, they would write down the things that he said. So they wrote all this stuff down, and they compiled it into a book, the Quran. Because listen, this is what the Islam faith believes. They believe that Jesus existed. Even they don't deny the fact that Jesus was on this earth. What they believe is that Jesus was a prophet. And a lot of the other people in the Bible, they believe it too, because you know what? It's truth. They were here. They can't deny the fact that they were here. They cannot deny it at all. They believe they were prophets. But they believe that Muhammad was the greatest prophet. They believe that what he said and what he did was greatest than anything. And these visions and these things that he saw and heard from God supposedly, they piled into a book and they started to live by it. And they created a religion. The Bible was written over a span of about 2,000 years by 40 different authors, 66 different books, all about one central idea. I don't believe that in half, like I said, most of these people didn't even know each other. They were still writing about the same thing. The Quran was written by one guy and only based on the things that he said, and it was all written after the Bible was completed. Every book in the Bible was completed before this guy wrote it his. For the Bible to be completed, for these books to link the way that they do, can only be God inspired. The only way for that to have ended up like it was for God to have had a hand in that. For God to have led these people. All right, third thing. What does science say? Science, because you know what? Science goes against the Bible, right?
Partially.
Not really what?
Scientists go against.
Science proves the Bible.
Scientists go against.
Scientists go against the Bible. Evolution is a big thing, right? And the pastor just did a huge series on evolution. So I'm not going to really go super in depth in evolution, but there's some other things that I want to show you because most of us hear the evolution argument, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Most of us hear that all the time. So you know what? I want to show you some of the things that we don't hear about a lot of times because these are things that are really interesting to me. When did we find out that the world was round?
1492.
Sailed the young.
I don't know that we found out the world was round at that time. We sailed it.
said it was
Sailed the
round.
ocean at that time. I don't really know the year we found out the ocean was round.
Columbus said it was round.
But Jello found out that it was round.
So it was around the
Columbus found out that it was round.
It was